Hey, good evening, everybody. It's us Sunday, oh Lord. We got few more hours. We're all back to work again. Man, I hate it. Anyways, today is January 26th. I'm glad you guys made it tonight. I got us a couple of guys coming on tonight, but before we get to that, I want to say hello to everyone while I can. And you guys know when the show gets going, I can't say hi much, but Stephen Hicks, good to see you, buddy. Always good to see you. Josh, I'm glad to see you tonight, buddy. Mr. Van Edwards, always glad to see you, brother. Let's see here. Stephen Hooks, put it out. Let's go on. Mr. Athens, how you doing tonight, buddy? Good to see you again. Cheyenne Gayhart, glad to see you. Godfather, yeah, watch a football game, brother. All right, let's see here. I think that's everyone. I can never forget Miss Sharon. I hope you're doing well over there across the pond. So, all right, guys, we're going to go ahead and get started because I really am looking forward to tonight's show. I haven't had this gentleman or these gentlemen on in a while, and we want to have us a good discussion about Bigfoot, but there's a couple other things we want to talk about before we get into that. But let me bring these gentlemen on real quick. My first gentleman is got his own show, and I'm going to put it up right now. It's called the Sasquatch Encounter Brigade. We've tried to promote him before, but this is his personal channel, and he does a great job on it. I love listening to the stuff that he does, and he's got some very interesting things. If you have not been over on that channel, you need to go over and check this gentleman out. But here he is as we speak, Mr. Johnny Two Bears. Hey, Johnny.
Hey, what's going on? How you doing?
Man, I'm doing good tonight. How about you?
Good, man. Good.
Man, I'm looking
Excited.
forward to the. Yeah, me too. I can't wait to get started. All right, we're gonna bring his partner in crime on, Mr. Bigfoot, Florida guy. Got it right. Ha ha. With BFFG Research, he's doing also good on his channel. But we'll go ahead and get this gentleman on. Let's see here. There he is. Hey, Richard.
What's up, fellas?
Y'all doing
What's
okay?
happening, Richard?
Yeah, hanging in there, man. Hanging in there. Woke up breathing, so it's a good day.
Yeah,
Now,
low
John,
expectations.
I have no expectations. If I wake up,
You
I wake
remember?
up. If I don't, it's a win-win for me. So
Y'all remember that Mad TV show where they had lowered expectations? You remember
yeah, that's my
uh,
life. That's my life.
that? Uh,
all right. Well, guys, you two guys decided to team up and come up with a team effort on a channel, and that's one of the reasons I really wanted to come on tonight. And it's called Sasquatch Unredacted. It's a fairly new channel, but you guys have been doing a great job over there. You want to tell us why y'all decided to do this?
Go ahead, Johnny. You
um,
started.
And
yeah.
what's
I
it
mean,
about?
we were. I was taking a break from uh stuff I was doing. I took a few months off to try to focus on everything around here on my own property, which turned out to be a good decision. And me and Richard were just talking one day, and I'm like, "Hey, man, why don't we do a podcast together?" Because he lives in Florida, and I live in Georgia, and I've been down there, and he's come up here. But other than that, we're friends. But there's not. He's got a super busy schedule. We all have lives, so we figured, hey, man, let's just buddy up and do a podcast together. So that's
Yeah,
pretty much it.
y'all doing a great job. Y'all really are. I've watched several of them. Sorry about that, fellas. When are
Well,
y'all
we've
gonna
been
come up to
lucky. I
Indiana?
mean, as soon as you pay for the flight,
Say that again.
When are y'all gonna come up to Indiana?
I don't know, man. I fly for free, so we can do it. We'll get
I
Richard to
do.
Uber.
I do not fly for free.
We'll get you a buddy pass.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. I would never put
I think I'm
I'd never put my equipment on the airplane
No.
and depend on it being there. So
Mm-mm.
we would
No,
drive.
I
way
told
too much
Richard,
money invested.
oh
Yeah.
yeah. I told Richard, I said I'm gonna try to. It's on my bucket list. I gotta come down there and spend a weekend or something with Richard or you or both of y'all and go out and do a little investigation, have a little camp out, have a little bit of fun. That would be great. I would enjoy that. But
Oh
anyway,
yeah.
let's go ahead and get started. Uh, Anything else you want to say about your show before we move on?
Well, listen,
Not
I
really.
think the
We're
best thing is.
but I know Go ahead, Richard.
Can y'all hear me? No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Just, there's a because when I'm looking at you guys, there's a lot of glitching going on. I think the best thing about our channel is how we go about doing the channel, where it's all about the guests. We allow them to speak, and we sit back like the audience, like the people in the chat room, and we listen because they're giving us their time, and we're giving them that moment to talk and stuff like that. We save everything to the end and stuff like that. And we've been really lucky and got some really, really great guests. They've been phenomenal. And we just do things a little bit different, and things are progressing. We're growing and we're learning and we're, learning from the mistakes. And it's just going to continue to grow and continue to be a lot of fun. And when it's not fun, then me and Johnny will stop. But right now it's fun. We enjoy it. It's a hobby.
Yeah.
It doesn't pay the bills. It's just fun.
Well, I also, to add on to that, I noticed, even when I've done interviews or I've interviewed other people for our other channel, you're always rushed. You know what I'm saying? Usually only got an hour. You're lucky if you get an hour and a half. And it's hard for some of these guys, they've been doing this stuff for 40 years. And how do you really, I know a lot of them kind of have it down pat and they say, you kind of get the same stuff sometimes because it's the main, the highlights. So what I'm hoping, like Richard's talking about, just sitting back and let them talk. We're not giving them a timeline. Like this is, if it goes 3 hours, it goes 3 hours, because I don't want to, I think you miss out with, some people that have a whole lot of experience. Now, other people aren't going to take, 20 minutes and then you're lucky to get 45 minutes, but that's just, that's the nature of the beast. But that's really my main goal, is to just let people talk and just to get out, everything they got.
Yeah, we let it form its own wheels and just let it run. And so far it's worked out great. I mean, these people that we've had on the show have been just phenomenal. And the people in the chat room have been just fantastic, just amazing. And it's about our subscribers. We love them to death. And, and they've been unbelievable supportive. As far as I'm concerned, we're doing great on my scale. So.
Oh, I think so. And it shows. It does. It shows. I'm kind of like this. Every encounter that you see is not what I call an ordinary encounter. What they see or what they've heard, stuff like that, it's all important. You could have, say, somebody that's got a big name on your channel, and you try to ask somebody from a chat room or somebody that you've talked to, and they say, well, all I heard was some foot stomps or tree breaks or some other kind of audio, or maybe just a glimpse of Bigfoot or something other that they couldn't describe or understand. They don't understand that that's still important. It is something, if nothing else, it gives another location. It backs up some kind of other belief or opinion that certain people may have. You see what I'm saying? So there is no what I call casual, my story is not important or it's not as exciting as maybe somebody else's story. To me, they don't understand. I'll have somebody on here. I don't care if you heard wood knocks. I want to know the situation behind it, the conditions and this and that kind of stuff. That way it kind of builds and builds. It's nothing but building blocks, and it's still fun to make. Hi, sunshine.
Yeah, you're 100% right on that, and I know from 100% experience. Our next guest is one of the dudes that's probably responsible for me actually seeing a Sasquatch, like from 50 feet away, and that's Happy Harris. And when you listen to his, I'm not going to give it away because we're about to interview him on Friday. But when you listen to his account, it basically boils down to two of these things came up behind him and yelled at him, and he didn't see them. Now it gets, he had another account when he was, or another incident when he was younger on a different property. And what happened after he was yelled at, I'll leave that for him to tell. But probably most people would probably, I don't know, there's not much to that because he literally, he didn't see them, But when he continues the story after what happened later on, and to me, that was an extreme event. It was like a light bulb that went off in my head. It's hard to explain this without giving the story away. But what happened to him was pretty extreme, or what we think may have happened. And he didn't even see him, but it was still enough to say, wait a second, man, this is what happened to him was not normal. It was quick. He wasn't awake for 90% of it. He passed out. So we're like, dude, and we started talking to him 30 years after this event, and he didn't tell anybody about it up until he met. He's from Georgia also. He knew my partner, Captain Joe, and he contacted him and he started wanting to get his story out. Well, 30 years later, we get a team together. We go out there. The very first night, we had interactions in our camp, got some of the best vocalizations I've ever recorded. We've got audio of a rock hitting my vehicle. I just posted this. It's like the last video I put up on my channel of the audio that happened that first night. And then I think on the third trip out there is when we had our sightings. 3 of us saw 2 of them within 45 minutes apart of each other. And that all came from, he didn't even see them. He just got screamed at. And that's where, and like I know there's a tendency sometimes also to not believe because honestly, man, when I first heard the story, I didn't believe it. I'm like, Joe, dude, it's a little over the top, man. I don't know. But then I talked to him and I'm like, I think he's telling the truth, and then that turns into one of the greatest moments of my life, standing 50 feet away from him, so you can't discount even the little stuff's important. You may not know what it is, but like you said, just when somebody tells you where something happened and you take that information and then look on the map, look at what it used to look like and what it looks like now, these things don't have a whole, they're running out of environment. So, and we proved that those things have been there for over 30 years in that same area. Now it's atypical. It's super rural farmland that the property owner only goes out on when he goes and hunts. And he hunts from these big Cadillac stands. He's not out there stomping around like we are. But you nailed it on the head, man. Hearing stuff like that and figuring out, all right, maybe that happened to this dude 6 years ago. But what does the environment look like to this day? Is it still viable? And if it is, there's no reason why you shouldn't go check it out. I think.
And even if it's just noises, and we'll get into some of this here in just a little bit, but a scream, a yell, a whistle, a howl, you don't have to see it. It kind of gives you an indication that they're still there, and you can still research that area, or if you can gather it up, you can it's kind of like putting pins on a map. You know what I'm saying? Does that place still have activity? Or are they moving on? Because there's a lot of theories, migrations, and do they stay in one place? I mean, there's a lot of things we just don't really know, but it kind of helps in knowing that they're still there. Richard had a story about himself, and to him, when we first talked about it, it was like, well, it ain't really a big sighting and this and that. And then when he got to telling me his story, I thought it was very interesting. and it was when he was talking about it was on all fours. Was that right? Not right, Richard?
No, 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 no. We in my encounter in that conversation, I always bring up Kerry Arnold, and Kerry Arnold had said, you know what, that thing could have been on all fours,
That's
and
what it was.
within 20 feet of you. You know what I mean? Because whatever it was close. It was really close. So, but yeah, it's little things like that. Like Johnny said, I've been to that property that Johnny's talking about. It's amazing property. It is gorgeous, especially when you come from Florida, where you're sloshing around in a lot of swamp and stuff like that. And you get to go there, and it's a lot more hardwoods and stuff like that. There was an area of pine, so when I walked through that, I felt like I was back home. But most of it's just hardwoods and all that, and it's just beautiful because these creek beds are going all over the place and stuff like that. It's absolutely 100%. I left her going that if I was a Sasquatch, that's where I'd live, because you have water, you have food sources, you have cover, you have everything that you need to survive. See what I'm saying? And hogs,
Hogs, deer.
all of that is food sources. It's really funny because when I go to different areas, especially this one preserve I go to, there's a sign and it has a listing of all the animals that you could possibly see at the preserve. And I tell people that's a menu. It's a menu, really. You know.
Okay, all right. Let's do this. I'm gonna get you guys started, and Johnny and Richard, like I told you before the show, it's your show, it's our show. So have fun with it. If you want to bring up a different topic, you go right ahead. But I'm gonna just get us started off. We had questionnaires, and I'm gonna ask them in the chat room. If you have any questions, put it all in caps, and we're not gonna shy away from anything. If you've got a question, put it in, and we'll have us and the guys talk about it. But we're just gonna start off. We had a question the other night. What is your favorite place for research and investigations that you can talk about? Let's put it that way.
I talk about all my places. I have nothing to hide. You know what I mean? I have that philosophy that the more, if, for example, I've been really, really, really busy lately with work. But if I knew there was somebody else interested in Bigfoot and they're going out to the same area that I'm in, I'm all for them catching this thing on video. You see what I'm saying? It doesn't have to just be me. You know what I mean? So I'm a big advocate of, hey, this is where I go, or this is what I do, and you know what I mean. Now, sometimes there are particular areas I don't mention only because I don't want somebody going out there and creating something that I may find, and it be a hoax or something like that. But there are areas that it's so large, it's so big, I'm not going to run into anything that you build or make, and you're not going to run into me. See what I'm saying? So big areas, it's 90,000 acres. I have no problem telling people, hey, this is the location. If you're ever in South Florida, check this place out or something like that. The smaller areas that I go to that are 3 to 5,000 acres, those I usually don't share because I just don't want people out there creating something or knowing that I'm going to be out there, because I go out there all the time, and creating some kind of issue or something like that, Um, but as far as the state of Florida, I can tell you where the hot spots are and say, hey, when you're down here, these are the areas you need to check out. And if
So
y'all
which
want to
one is
list
your
up, I'll
favorite?
tell you right now.
What's your favorite?
It,
What's your favorite?
my favorite is the one that's more local to me because I can hit it more often, and I've gotten some great stuff out of there. Some really great, footprints, arches, different things like that. I've recorded some really amazing vocals and stuff like that I really like. I really enjoy that place a lot. Um, but another place I find fascinating is where Johnny came up, and him and his guys, and we did a thing out there, and it's a huge area. We hit not even 1% of the mass of this area. I like it because it just scares the living crap out of me. The place is just creepy to me, very creepy. Especially Johnny. I tell you, when we get there, there's a cattle. It's a long drive in to get to where we camp. It's not, you're not a hop, skip, and a jump away from town. It's a drive, so you want to bring everything you need. But once you get to this cattle gate, and you go in. It's just this small little dirt path for vehicles that heads to the campsite. Just that 200-yard strip is creepy. There's an old house that might have been a forest ranger shack or something like that that's decrepit now, and it's just spooky. You know what I mean? So that place, and I've had some really interesting things happen out there. We've caught some great stuff while we're out there in the past. It's just that place. It really gets your spider senses tingling when I'm out there. So I don't keep up.
Wasn't there literally?
What's that?
Wasn't there literally a sighting right there in that camp that we stayed at?
2 researchers, I won't name them, but they were there sitting at one of there's 2 little picnic areas there that you can lunch or whatever. They were the one where Johnny and Lloyd were camped at. They camped at one of those, real close to one of those. They were sitting on those benches, and a Sasquatch had walked out, and they both spotted it, and then it went back into the forest. There's been quite a few sightings out there. Matter of fact, there was a guy that was on a podcast one night. I was watching a podcast, and he was from Florida, and he was talking to me because that's what drove my attention. Was it was a man with Florida sighting. I said, well, that draws my interest right off the bat, and it was that area. He was in that forested area, and he was a hunter. He was hog hunting. He was on the back of his truck, just parked with his scope, just waiting for hogs to come out in this field. And it was a power line field. So you had these really tall, 50-foot tall power poles and stuff like that. And according to his sighting, the thing came out, walked to one of the poles and kind of leaned on it, looking around and stuff like that. And then it turned and went back into the forest. And that was his sighting. So, and there's a reported sighting with the BFRO and everything else where a state trooper was parked out there, and a Sasquatch, he saw it in his rear view mirror. He had one of those SUV state trooper vehicles, and it literally bumped his vehicle and shook the entire vehicle, and he did a report on it. So it's a pretty interesting area. It's a like I said, it's a place I would not go alone. I wouldn't camp out there by myself. You know what I mean? So
that's got to be a good spot.
No, I won't camp out there by myself. No.
Yeah, you're braver than I am anyways. You already camp out there in places I wouldn't go. What about you, John? You don't have to be Pacific.
A couple. Obviously, my property is probably I've made the most progress, and it's just because, I mean, literally, I spend several hours a night outside since 2017. So that's how I've been able to get the stuff that I have. So just the opportunity itself, like they're literally coming to my property, and now it's got to the point now where I know the months. Last year is the first year that I could go to the very back of my property. It started out with me. I was leaving food items out there. Everybody says don't gift and don't feed them, whatever. I didn't listen to any of that. Because it's all, half the stuff you hear is like, if it was really that dangerous, it would literally be the best way to get the best evidence ever. If it was that guaranteed that there was going to be some huge repercussions from doing this, and nobody's getting video of it. And that's like most researchers I know do it. I just started leaving eggs basically for my chicken coops. And I started going out there. I went out there that night and checked the eggs. And it's the top of this hill. And I turn around and I'm walking back down the creek. And right when I step over the creek, I hear a wood knock from back behind me. I'm like, oh crap. That's like right where I was just at. So I go up the hill a little ways, and there's this clearing area with a log right in the middle of it. It's perfect. And I sat there, and I can't remember what all they did because it's been so many times, but they were literally started breaking things, throwing things, and doing knocks. and I recorded the audio of that whole time. Well, so from September, October, and November of 2023, in 3 months, I don't know how many nights I went out there, maybe 55 nights. And at about 5 of those nights, I could go out there. Sometimes they'd already be out there, and I would get activity immediately. Sometimes I'd do a wood knock, and I may have to wait 5 to 15 minutes. And they would come around, do wood knocks, throw rocks, breaks, all that. I recorded 5 different evenings of that in 2023. In 2024, same thing, September, October, but they didn't go into November for whatever reason this year. And I got to where I could, I was trying to bring in pieces of equipment like thermals and like I've got a night vision phone. And it seemed like every time I'd use that night vision phone, the activity would quit. So the first year I wouldn't do it. But this year, or 2024, I've been able to take that night vision phone and set it up behind me. And you can actually, if nothing else, you could see me and you could see me reacting. And then the very last time they were here this year, I actually caught 2 throws on camera that came bouncing in while I was having activity. So, I mean, that's why but this is years, 7 years of several nights a week, at least being outside, just making myself available at first for something to happen. And then I would go and inspect what it was. Sometimes I'd get something, sometimes I wouldn't. And this is built up to where apparently almost 3 months out of the year, I can get interactions, maybe 5% of the time I go to this area. And I've only been able to do that because I live here.
Yeah.
Like the other places, I can't, you can't hold it against other, like I told Richard, even him going out every weekend, dude, if you counted the amount of time technically that I'm outside that I didn't get anything, you wanted to call it a failure. I've got a 99.999% failure out of literally now probably 1,000 nights,
But that brings up a good.
But that's how much time it took.
Yeah, because we've discussed that, where that's the integrity when you can sit there and say, yeah, I didn't get anything, and I do it all the time. Johnny does it all the time. Hey, there's nothing going on. You know what I mean? And that's always my red flag with a lot of other researchers, whoever, that it's constant. They're always, look what I got, look what I got, look what I got. And Johnny spends a lot of time in the woods. If it's not his property, it's the happy place, or it's out hunting or whatever. He does spend quality time in the woods. I go out, well, I was up until recently, every single weekend in the woods. And I'm the same way. 99.9% of the time, I'm not getting anything. But it's that one time you do. You know what I mean? It's like playing golf. You shank, and all of a sudden you hit one good shot. You're coming back next week. So that's how I look at it, is the more time you spend in the woods, your odds keep going up. It has to. See what I'm saying? It's a numbers game. You're not, absolutely zero chance of seeing Bigfoot if you're sitting on your couch.
Well, I tell you what I like about where I go, and it's about a 10-minute drive from here. It's not my backyard back in, say as my sighting was back in the 80s. This place I actually have to travel to. And what I like about it the most of is I can take my wife with me, and we can go for a walk, get out of the house, get away from your whole drums, your work, and everything, and just go out with a little bit of a charge in you that maybe you might find something or see something. She's very good at observations. She can find things, that I would probably just go by. But, being a podcaster like we do, a lot of times I'll go on channel, or I may be recording, or trying to come up with something to say. How you guys know how it is. And she's all along back there behind me hearing noises and finding this and that. Could this be what they might have done? And if you go back every week or every 2 weeks, you'll find something new or something has changed. And that for us is just fun for us, whether we find something or not. Luckily, we do find things that we attribute to Bigfoot, whether it is or whether it ain't. It's just exciting for us. So anybody that does go out, like you guys say, 99% of it's failure, you know, but you're increasing your odds if you go. But for us, it's fun thing to do. Of course, we use precautions. We go ahead, Richard.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's anybody who gets into this, it's a rabbit hole for sure. It's a financial hole and it's a rabbit hole. Um, but the first time, if you're new to this and the first time you go out, every sound you hear, you're alerted to. I mean, you're just on high alert and everything's a Bigfoot. Oh my God, did you hear that and hear that? But the more time you spend out there, you start getting accustomed to what's natural noises, what's going on in the woods. And you're able to draw out the things that don't make sense. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
This doesn't make sense. That sound doesn't make sense. If you hear an owl every single time you go out, you get used to an owl. But then you hear something that wanted to sound like an owl, but it's not an owl. So now that opens up a green flag to say, hey man, I need to go over there. I need to check this out, find out what this is and stuff like that. So it's a process.
Yeah, it kind of opens up your detective, your inner detective, and you want to make sure that what you're hearing is not a coyote, owl, whatever. You're trying to deduce so you know what you're dealing with, and that's for people that are interested in it. And some people hear stuff they don't know what they're hearing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, it's like when I went to see Johnny. See, like here, I'm very cautious in the woods. Very, very cautious because there's so many things in Florida that want to do you harm. And where you step, I mean, we have 5 different species of rattlesnakes. We got poisonous spiders. We got alligators. We got hogs, panthers, bears. We got it all. And so I'm very cautious. I don't just run in the woods because I heard something because I don't know what I'm going to walk up on and I could get hurt. But then when I go to see Johnny up in Georgia, I don't know this area and I don't know what can hurt me. So now I'm a little bit braver, you know what I mean? Because I don't know what they got up there, you know?
Well, that's definitely we definitely don't have the amount of animals that want to kill you in Georgia. I can tell you that. Florida's I actually grew up in
Well,
Florida. It's something else down there, like a whole nother world, you know. Like being in the jungle sometimes.
all right, we're gonna answer some chat room questions, and that's why I like these kind of discussions. You get good questions from these folks. Spencer wants to know, how often do y'all think the Sasquatch Bigfoot reproduce?
Um, on the all chance I'm going to hurt some feelings, there's anyone who can give you an estimate of that. In order to know how many Sasquatch, we've yet to accomplish long-term observation
Yeah.
of one of them. You can go by tracks, but I know for a fact that they don't always leave tracks just because they're in the area. So I honestly think any guess is just literally a guess. I know there's been, and I don't. I'm very careful about the proclamations I try to make because I'm not a scientist. Okay, I don't claim to be a scientist, but it's just like I've heard the whole maybe they compare it to the black bear population. We don't have the slightest idea what these creatures even are yet. Genetically, we don't know what their genetic makeup is. We have no idea how many there are. I don't know. I just don't even know how you would accomplish coming up with a viable estimate for something that we know so little about.
Yeah, because I've done the same thing, like Johnny. I mean, you'll look into it as just yourself, what makes sense to you and stuff like that. But I've done that to quote so-called experts and said, okay, what's the gestation period of a pregnant Sasquatch? If you're an expert, nobody knows, But if you, with me, when I went down that rabbit hole to look at what would I think that would be as far as how long do they hold a baby and stuff like that, even a gorilla. the largest gorilla in Africa, it's the same as a human. It's around 9 months. But we don't know if Sasquatch is from that lineage or a human lineage, or I personally think it's a proto-human, which is its own species, not gorilla, not that, it's its own species. And so we wouldn't know. And like you said, nobody's done long-term observation. You know what I mean? You'll have people to say, oh, I've been watching this Sasquatch for 20 years, and he comes out and he eats my dog food or eats my corn feed, and I see him every morning and stuff like that. Then it would be easy to get a picture or a video. You know what I mean? If you see him every day, you know he's going to be there. Have your camera ready. See what I'm saying? Now you can start some long-term observation because he's there every day. That has not happened. You know what I mean? It just hasn't taken place. And I think the closest I've even seen is Johnny. And like he said, it's only so many months out of the year that he has a lot of activity, and it's good activity. He sent me a clip one time of a rock being thrown, and he caught it on video. And I actually put it in a short one time for him. I thought it was really cool, and it's really cool because he's sitting there with his back turned. He turns to the camera and goes, "That was close." You know what I mean?
Yeah. That night was, I think I ticked them off. I actually think I didn't get a good enough look, but I accidentally snuck up on something that was very gray and looked a whole lot like a baby Sasquatch in motion like this. And all I could see was the arm and like the back of the head. And it was completely unintentional. Because I don't do that anymore. Not on my own property. I don't do any sneaking around. I don't do any kind of tricks or any type of games. I've made every move I make is now super obvious to them, and that's just how I've gotten to where it is. To try to. My goal was to make sure that that I was not aggressive in the slightest, and that and I guess it's worked for them to. Like he was saying, if it's 3 months and I go out 50 nights and I got 5 interactions or 5 evenings with interactions, and it might last 10 minutes. But we're talking, this is just night after night after night after night, So.
Yeah, it's weird. And I tell people all the time, we're out there looking. We're absolutely out there looking, and my goal is to catch it on film. I need this thing in motion. That's my goal. 10 seconds. I'll take 10 seconds. But when it happens, it's fast. Yeah. You know what I mean? And a lot of times you're not prepared. No matter how prepared you want to be, for some reason, when something happens, you're not prepared. Maybe it's right when you get out of your truck, or you haven't even opened up anything yet, or it happens to be when you're charging something, or it's always like when we had, an incident, let's leave it at that, with Johnny and them. We had just got back to camp. We were packing stuff up. We were putting things on chargers and stuff like that. It wasn't like we thought something was going to happen of any nature at that moment. See what I'm saying? And that's what I tell people is most of the sightings that we read about or we look at and stuff like that, they're happenstance. It's a camper or a hiker or a bicyclist or a car riding down the road, or it's just happenstance. Those are 99% of the sightings that are out there. It's very rare that it's a actual Bigfoot researcher and he goes out there and he catches it. You know what I mean? I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying it's a lot different. Most of the sightings, like I said, are happenstance. Just people took a bend in a trail and this thing was standing there looking at them. You know what I mean? That happens quite a bit when you look at a lot of the reports. So.
Yeah, well, as anybody who's doing research and that's your goal of getting them on video, you're going to have to learn real quick how to optimize your time because there's things you don't think about. Batteries.
Right.
You've got to if you are constantly recording the entire time you're out there, that takes some work. It takes some work to have batteries, backup batteries, charging those batteries. You've got to, if you use your phone, iPhones take good video. I use iPhones on a gimbal and a GoPro, but these things fill up with memory.
Yeah.
And you got to be able to delete that while you're still recording, and that's, we learned that the hard way. That day I was talking about when, all three of us had sightings. I wasn't even 100% sold yet that I was right, that these things were real. And I had recorded, we never expected to see anything during the day, especially after being out there for already like 4 or 5 hours. And I recorded on one half of the property the entire time. And then I got lazy and we went to the other side of the property. And I was only recording when we found something. And then I had a rear facing GoPro. Well, that's when one steps out 50 feet away from me and I'm recording behind me and not in front of me, So now I get to tell this story the rest of my life that 90% of people aren't going to believe because I didn't get it on video. And that's our fault, But that's the best advice I can give anyone who wants to get involved in doing this. Record at all times and just assume you don't know anything when it comes to what they're going to do. Because we made a bunch of assumptions about, we thought we'd been out there too long. We were too noisy. There was a logging crew on the other side of the property. There's no way anything, even in the video, me and Joe have a conversation. Well, dude, I don't think they're here anymore. I think they probably, because there was this bed area we would check. And before it'd been kept up with, but it wasn't kept up with. So like 20 minutes before I have my sighting, me and Joe just told each other that they're not there anymore. So you don't want to do that, because I love that property. I love that property. It's absolutely amazing. It's literally changed my life seeing those things out there. But also at the same time, me and Lloyd had a conversation last time I was out there. I am so obsessed with recording it at all times, it's to where I don't even enjoy myself anymore, because I've got that fear in the back of my head that they're gonna jump out in front of me and I'm not gonna be recording. And again, I get to tell the best story in the world, and then people are like, and we got it on video. It was afterwards, and it was in the woods, and it's one screenshot of the face. But that's not enough compared to what I saw. It's like, why even bother? But
yeah, I remember the next morning.
It's frustrating.
He was killing himself. He was.
Well, and Johnny does record all the time. He's got this big parabolic and stuff. He sets it up and everything. And we got there the first night, got tent set up and everything. We're all chilling out. We didn't, do so much the first night and everything. So I remember getting up the next morning and saying, because he was running a parabolic all the time. And I was like, oh, by the way, if around 1 something in the morning, if he heard something, it wasn't a Bigfoot. I farted.
Or I'd be like, hey, Richard, what's your social security number real quick?
Richard, I would have said they do have a smell.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
If there was one, he was in my tent that night. It was a rough night. I was just coming off a 12-hour drive just to get up there. That was a long drive, but it was really amazing because once we got into Georgia, I don't think people realize how beautiful Georgia is. And as we were driving, we were looking at all these forested, beautiful areas and these rolling, just like not mountains, rolling hills with beautiful grass and all this. And I was with somebody else, and both of us kept saying, "Man, that would be a great place to research." Oh, wait a minute, that would be a great place to research. And we're just everywhere we saw was just gorgeous. It's an amazing place. Amazing place. I might get a job.
Well, Alabama is too now. I live west. I live in West Georgia, and I started going here recently to the Little River Canyon area.
Been there many days.
All that out there in the towards Alabama, and it's all. I mean, it's like pretty much like being in Georgia. But that's pretty cool. Anybody in Georgia or Alabama, go to Little River Canyon Nature Preserve. It's just great to take your family out there. It's beautiful, and then you can drive the road, and it's literally like being in a miniature Grand Canyon. So
Yep.
pretty
Been
cool
there many a
stuff.
days. I'm gonna ask you a question, and because I really don't have an opinion on this because I don't know enough yet. Like I said, every story can build a block, and help shape your opinion or uh, something that you may be curious about. Uh, Flat Rock is on here, and he's got
Hey,
one of
Flat
the
Rock.
best videos. I think that's incredible. I know Flat Rock. He wouldn't fake nothing, and he's got a Bigfoot walking in
Yeah.
front of a light. You can see eye shine and all this and that, and I brag on it. But even he will tell you if somebody's coming to research his property, or you know he'll tell you October. If I'm thinking right, is it September and October or somewhere in there is the best time to come to his property. That's when activity really picks up. You're basically saying the same thing: September, October, possibly going into November. Uh,
Yeah, this year was just September and October. They didn't do anything at all in November. So I don't know what the difference
what
was,
do you
but
think? What do you
Yeah,
think they're
the two
doing
times I had,
afterwards? Are they going somewhere? Are they migrating? Or they just holding up? What is what? I don't know. I'm just asking for an
yeah.
assumption here. What do you guys think is really going on when that activity dies down?
I don't lean
Uh,
towards migration at all. I don't. I think they leave areas following food, or or just moving just to be scarce, to not be found. You know what I mean? Just moving around different areas and stuff. Migration really comes across as, well, it's cold up here, let's go down south, or it's too hot down here, let's go up north. And I just don't think that's happening. They would be seeing a whole lot more because, like Johnny said earlier, they're losing land. They're
Yeah.
losing it. So migration just seems like long term, long distance, and stuff like that. Where Johnny's getting these things on a almost a scheduled
Yeah.
basis. Now, if they were migratory, going long distances, you would go a lot longer without having those incidences because it would take them a lot longer to get back and stuff like that. So
well,
I'm more. Yeah,
it
go ahead.
should be picking up here pretty soon. Usually near
Well,
the
I think
end of January, beginning of February. It should be. So I tend to agree with him. I mean, I don't know. There's probably other people who've done more work on. I don't even know how you would track that because the one thing I think about is their entire existence. A lot of it, I think, comes down to staying away from us and then staying hidden at the same time. If you go, let's say you go over to somebody's house and you go camp in their backyard for a day, you're not going to leave a lot of, you're going to clean up behind yourself, not leave too much sign, get out of there, good to go. If you're back there for 2 weeks in your buddy's backyard, there's going to be stuff everywhere, right? You can't, I do not believe, I think these things strategically move from area to area just to avoid leaving sign, if I were to guess. And I'm making assumptions on intellect, as in they're intentionally doing that. I do believe they're smart enough to do that because just from things I've experienced and witnessed. So I would probably agree with Richard and say it was less migration and more of a uh,
big game of mind.
tactical, yeah, just tactical game. I would assume or would think, as careful as they are, they probably, let's say it's a 10-mile stretch, and they might throughout the year, whether it's a figure eight or a check mark or a box or whatever it is, they probably go from point to point to point throughout the year, depending on who knows why they pick these spots. But that would be if thinking about something that like taking migration off the menu and then think about what's the possibility of their movement and them not staying in the same area. I think that's probably it. But then again, you also have, just because I'm not getting interactions, just because I'm not finding sign, they might be 500 yards on the other side of my neighbor's.
Right.
Sorry, he just glitched out. He's here. Here he is. Sorry, go ahead, Joe.
There he is.
Let me ask this. And I've often wondered about this, and I've brought it up a couple of times. My sighting was in October, and I had an incident that happened to me years later, and I heard one in my backyard, basically. And when I come outside to go to work, I spooked it, and I could hear it walking up the hill. The leaves was on the ground. It was dry, so I could hear it. And you guys know just as well as I do the difference between a human walking and a deer walking out in the woods or any other critter like that. And this was, you could tell it was two legs. And it kind of walked up the hill. And next day I checked, and that's when I found something that it had left. But my point is, it was right there by a persimmon tree. Persimmons tend to start falling and everything else, and deer loves them. Any animal loves them. Persimmons. I don't know your area, Johnny. I don't know what's in your backyard. I don't know what's in Flat Rock's backyard. Persimmons is not something that just grows, in droves like a pine tree will, or like your fruit or nut trees. These fruit trees, they tend to grow in spotty places. And I'm wondering if that might be an attraction, looking for sources of food that maybe, I dare say, fatten up. Something like apple trees, pear trees. I don't know what may be around, but I seem to think that October is the time that your fruit trees tend to bear and start dropping. You've got eggs, chickens, other things like that that could draw them in as food. And I'm wondering if that's what's happening in October itself.
Honestly,
Well,
when I say I'm leaving eggs, I have zero proof that they're taking anything. I've had
Yeah.
eggs actually stay out there for like 3 months and not get touched. I literally, this is what I literally think, that they know I'm leaving stuff for them, but they're not even taking it.
Yeah.
That's actually how intelligent I think they are. I had before that night happened, shortly before, I went out there back to that hill and I was leaving eggs. And I came back there one day and found a Native American skinning rock on the top of a stump, just out there in the middle. There's nobody that goes back there. Just out there in the middle of the stump that I got to walk by to leave eggs. I still have it. I was shocked to find this thing, right? Shortly after that, in that same area on that same hill, I walked out there one day and there was half of a squirrel, like something just, and it was like almost like it was perfectly cut in half. And it was the upper half of a squirrel. Now, unfortunately, I didn't record it because I didn't think anything about it. I thought I stumbled upon something was eating a squirrel, which was kind of odd. You stop and think about it. Usually a predator won't leave part of something behind. Anyway, there's that half of a squirrel. Now, I can't remember if it was exactly that the next day or the day after that. But my wife, when I got home from work, she said, "Hey, there is a dead squirrel behind the chicken coop." I was like, "What?" I walked back behind the chicken coop, and not 5 feet away, I've got video of this. There is a dead squirrel right behind the chicken coop. Looks like it just fell asleep right there. So for me, going there and leaving eggs that may or may not disappear, or I found eggs that I know birds are getting into.
Yeah.
So I'm not even convinced that they're taking it. But for me to find that squirrel while I'm leaving eggs, And then like the next day, find another squirrel behind my chicken coop. I'm like, that's a little too right on the nose, you know? And it was shortly after that is when I got the wood knocked behind me that night. All this stuff started. So I don't even think they're taking the food, to be honest with you. I think they're smart enough to understand, hey, this dumb human, he's leaving us stuff. We're not going to eat it, but you know, that's sweet. At least he's not trying to shoot us. You know, I think that's probably what's going on.
Yeah, it's like myself. I do not do anything to habituate these things at all. It's I don't want to get to know them that close. I really don't. I want to. I want to observe from a distance, and if I catch it on film or whatever I need to do, but you know, I just don't. I don't do that because I've heard bad stories. You know, all of a sudden you stop feeding them, bad things happen because they're upset with you, and that's the last thing I want to do is go in the woods because I'm out there 99% of the time by myself, and I don't want a Sasquatch upset with me because I didn't bring a jar of peanut butter. So
Yeah.
I don't habituate them. Now, the one time I did was I was walking in the swamps, and I did this whole thing on film. It's on my channel, and I had an apple that was just it was for me. You know, I get hungry out there. I take a quick snack and eat an apple. And on the way out, there was a stump, and I said, well, I'm just going to leave this apple right here. You know, I'm coming back, you know, next week or whatever. I'm just going to leave the apple here. Had no expectations whatsoever. Any animal known to man out there could have ate that apple. You know what I mean? So if I came back, the apple was gone. I couldn't say what took it. It could have been anything. You know what I mean? So no big deal. So I come back, I think it was the following weekend or maybe a week and a half later, I go back out there. And of course, the apple's gone, which didn't surprise me because I'm walking up to the stump. This is all filmed. I'm walking up to because I lost the stump. I thought I had marked it well enough that I would be able to find it, but it took me a while to find it. And in the video, I'm walking around going, I know it's around here somewhere. So if I finally see the stump maybe 40 feet ahead of me, and I start walking towards it, and I'm like, oh yeah, the apple's gone, no big deal, whatever. But there was a golf ball left there, a golf ball, you know. So that's what made it weird, and said, okay, something isn't right here. I've kind of scratched it up to somebody else maybe messing with me or something like that. But yeah, that right there, and I never put food out again ever. You know, I just don't. If I drop something, I pick it up, put it in my pocket. I'm not leaving anything for them at all.
Okay. All right. Well, I've asked questions for an hour now, and I'm going to try to let Johnny take over here. Activities. What do you think are their house? What do they mean? The whistles, the tree knocks. What do you think these are? Are they trying to communicate to us or to themselves? What do you think? And then I'm gonna let Johnny ask questions.
Oh man. Well, it's probably situational. I've gotten stuff on the parabolic where I've gone inside and then, or even out at the happy place where I've gotten away from my vehicle, and then there's whistles on the other side. So I think they probably do communicate with each other, letting each other know, you know, exactly where they're at. Sometimes it may just be to mess with us. The very first night we were at the happy place, and all that started with a crazy vocalization, very loud, obvious. We thought it was canine-ish, but it was almost more like wolf. And we didn't realize till later on, got the audio home, that it definitely wasn't canine because there's a in it. It was super obvious that there's no other animal in the world that makes this noise. And after that, about 45 minutes later is when we had the interactions. It started out with a throw that hit my vehicle, a grunt, which we all heard. And then when Happy turned his flashlight on, we got another very strange vocal. It was like a something weird that I never expected, you know. So I can't tell you exactly why they do what they do. I think some of there's part of me that thinks they want us to know that they're there. That part of it's a game. That they're communicating with one another, but they're also sometimes messing with us too, you know. Is what it seems like to me.
Okay. Rick, what
Richard?
do you think?
What was the question again?
Ha ha! Pay attention to stuff.
No, I'm also, I like interacting with the chat room too.
Yeah.
So with me, the vocalizations is me personally. I don't think they give a rat's crap about us. I don't think they're trying to communicate to us. I think they want to stay hidden, and that'd be the one thing you don't want to do is talk to the person you're trying to hide from. But I do absolutely think they're communicating with each other. You know, so if you go into an area and you have all of a sudden you've got something going on, they might be alerting each other. Say, hey, you know, like some people think, you know, hey, when I got there, I heard 2 wood knocks. Maybe they're saying there's 2 people pulled up. We don't know. See what I'm saying? But they're evidently communicating with each other, and I do think they're that intelligent that there is communication going on between them. As far as reaching out to us or talking to us or anything like that, I don't think they really care. I think they want to avoid us. You know, it's even in the
They want to avoid us.
I think they want to hide from us. I think they're interested in us. I think they like to watch us. I think they like.
I was about to say.
You know,
I've got a lot of things saying that they don't necessarily like to avoid us. I think they run circles around us and don't have to.
Because I've had stuff thrown at me. And I've had them come into my camp and different things like that. But it's always in the cover of darkness or in the cover of this and the cover of that. I don't think they're just going to step out and say, "Hey, here I am," and share a ham sandwich with me.
Man, I wish.
Oh, dude. And that's what I tell people all the time. I said, the one thing I do know about Sasquatch is he's extremely selfish. He's out there all day not doing a damn thing. I'm out there I just want 10 seconds out of his day. That's all I want. And he won't give it up. He just won't give it up. So.
Well, I'm kind of curious on this part too, but I'm going to say this. The communication, the tree knocks, I'm very curious about. Are they really tree knocks? We could go on and on and on about the tree knocks. I'll say this much. I went out kind of behind my house one day, just messing around. Wasn't armed or nothing. You know, I was just taking a walk, you know. And I went on this particular hillside, and curiosity got the best of me. I said, I wonder what would happen if I just picked up a stick and banged it on the tree 3 times. And so I did. And I got a response almost immediately. I mean, it was just like a second, and I got a response. Down the hillside, on the other side of the hill, let's just say 600-700 yards, maybe a little bit further. Okay, it wasn't a great distance. And I'm like, okay, that's odd. Right across from the hill is a field, and then it goes into another hill. It's got a creek there. I'm wondering maybe it could be a situation where it might echo. You know where I'm going with that. So I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. So this time I hit it twice, and I got a 3 knock response back. I said, okay, that's enough. I'm unarmed. It's time for me to go to the house. I'm out here with something that I got nothing with. But I'm trying to figure out, is it a communication? Is it location? And what I mean by a location, a locator, is, say, a male trying to locate a female or maybe a juvenile. I don't know these things. We all have our assumptions, I'm going to put it that way, and opinions about it. I'm just kind of curious what you guys think.
Yeah, I mean, your guess is as good as mine, honestly. I think we just lack long-term observation, and we don't even, honestly, I mean, I know they've done wood knocks when they're around, and I know it's them. They intentionally break things to give them. That's what I was, giving Richard hell about, when these things are back there in this clearing, and I do a wood knock, and 5 to 10 minutes later they show up, and then they're doing wood knocks. They're throwing rocks. they're breaking stuff. I got some of the best breaks this year that I've ever recorded. Just super
Now,
loud.
what are you
like,
talking about breaking?
they're like they're grabbing a tree
Okay.
or a limb and just breaking the heck out of it. And they're not doing that for each other. This is, and I don't know. It could be I'm so stupid and so wrong that they're literally trying to run me out of there and I don't understand it. Like, I'm just not getting the hint. That could possibly be it, but I know they're doing it for me to hear. I know that. And I know when they came up to our camp that night and threw that rock at my vehicle, that was definitely, hey, jerks, what are y'all doing here? And then
hope you got full coverage.
Yeah. I did. I had to replace that windshield twice, and that was the first time. Like a week later, I don't technically know it was them, but at the very bottom of the driver's side on the windshield, I had a crack that started like that, and then got, so big that I had to replace the windshield. So I don't know if that was them or not, but I also live on a road where there's, dump trucks coming in and out. So it could have happened. Maybe it wasn't their fault, but, I don't know. With a lot of this stuff, y'all's guess is just as good as mine. It sounds rational that when you hear a knock and then you hear another one way off, it kind of sounds like they're trying to communicate with one another, and that makes as much sense as anything else I've heard.
Yeah, I definitely think they're having conversations with each other. I truly believe we're entertainment. I think they're bored, and especially I'm a big advocate of, especially at nighttime, if you're around a campfire and you're just sitting, you're chilling, you'll hear a lot, and maybe that draws them in. You know what I mean? They come in and watch us and stuff like that. I've seen people like Christopher Nell had a video where they were around a campfire, and he caught one that was in some rubbish, you know what I mean? It's like trees, just stacked up, and this thing is behind it looking through gaps in it at them at the campsite. So it was definitely interested. So I'm a big advocate of not running through the woods at night, only because, like I said, here it's not wise. You know what I mean? It's not wise. You could be, like that night Johnny and us are out there and we had an incident, and if it was alligators, we would have, if we had run into the woods, we would have stepped on alligators, because we're not looking down. We're looking up, because we're thinking we're going to come across this thing walking in front of us. And all of a sudden you step on the back of an alligator and you lose a leg. So I'm not a big fan of running around in the woods, but I definitely think we're entertainment.
Do you guys think
Flat Rock's got a question?
Okay, go
ahead. Johnny, how did you feel when you had one come up to your house for the first time, not as a researcher, but as a family man?
Good question.
Believe it or not, around my house, the worst part for me was about the first year, the first 6 months to a year, when I didn't know what I was dealing with. It scared me more to think it was humans than one of those. Even though I didn't know enough about them, I was honestly more afraid that because what was concerning to me was their ability to do the things they were doing at my house and my neighbor's house and then just disappear. And that was, to me, like, dude, these aren't kids that are doing this. This has got to be an adult and they're taking a lot of time to be able to get away from. And we're talking about calling the cops like once every 2 to 3 weeks is what my neighbors.
It's a big risk too, because you're armed.
Yeah,
it's a big risk to
exactly.
mess around a person's house at night, and especially you and both of us, or all three of us, I believe, are all prior military. We're gonna have a firearm. That's a pretty brave person.
Well, the night it all changed for me, and it really sunk in what I was dealing with is and I think I may have already told this on your podcast before, so I won't go all the way into it, but basically I started doing armed patrols at night. And then one night the dogs went nuts. I got all my gear. I had a flashlight, a pistol, and a thermal. I went to the far side of the property. I was going down the hill, going to wherever I was trying to find whoever this was. And the rocks started falling all around me. Like somebody just threw a handful of rocks at me. And then I backed up and I actually got mad because I backed up. I'm like this is it. I got to figure out who this is. And I went to walk again, and then the rocks fell all around me again. And I yelled out, if you hit me with a rock, I'm going to shoot you. And I went down in the woods, looked around in that little pine thicket for maybe 10 minutes, walked up to back up to the top where I started, and I'm standing there looking at my thermal. And from about 30 feet away, it had gotten, there's a boulder back there, and it went, whoa! And right then, that was probably the scaredest I've ever been in my life. But also, to be honest with you, a little bit of relief because I finally got an answer. Like there was no mistaking what, because I've got that growl recorded. He's growled at me 3 times like that. The third one I called him. I've got that recorded. But to have, I was relieved it wasn't people, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And but then I was like totally infatuated with the fact, oh my God, these things are actually real. And then, and there's times I felt uncomfortable. The only time I ever really didn't like something they did that kind of made me feel gross, kind of, is I got up one morning and I had a stomach virus. And I didn't think I was going to go to work. I went and turned my coffee on. I went and laid down on the couch. I'm like, I don't think I'm going to be able to do this, man. Thinking about calling my boss. I'm like, God, I got to go, though. Got to go to work. And I hear like a real deep voice. This is 3 o'clock in the morning, 10 minutes after 3, something like that. Because I get up at 3 o'clock every morning. And I heard something like where my deck is. I got a 2-story deck right there. And I could hear it through the wall. And it was like deep talking. Well, I get up. I finally get my butt to work. I pull up the video camera. I've got a video camera at the corner of my house. And the audio is like walking around and talking in this alien. It's the craziest vocal I've recorded. It's like I can't even mimic it, but I've got it on my channel. It's the craziest sound I've heard from them. It's like a just but alien sounding. I just don't. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And my dogs went nuts, and you can hear the running on my deck. Like you can hear the whole thing. And to me, it seemed like the sumbitch was looking through my back window, my kitchen window, while I'm laying on the couch. And when I heard that voice in that recording the first time, I actually got an adrenaline rush. Like it was like it's the first time anything really kind of made me feel very uncomfortable about this whole situation. Just thinking, God dang, man, it's one thing for them to be in the woods, but if they're on my back deck, that's a whole nother. That's
Yeah.
It gets a little personal after that.
That's interesting. I'm not gonna get into my whole stories because be honest with you guys, you two guys.
We'll bring
being
you on
here,
our show and you can tell us.
Yeah, that's what I'm getting
Yeah.
at. I'm gonna hold back on a lot of stuff, but I'm gonna ask you guys: do you think they have their own language? You just like you was talking about, Johnny. It sounded like aliens, or it sounded like people were talking. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm sitting here listening to your story, and I'm imagining how I would feel if that was going on with me. And the times that I've seen and heard these things, it wasn't that I was scared, but it kind of had like a little adrenaline rush to you, that you're dealing with something that you're told that wasn't real, but yet here they are.
Right.
Here it is. You can see it, you can hear it, and it's them. Uh, People that don't have not experienced something like that, you really can't explain to them what goes into your head because some people are going to freak out, happy, passed out.
Oh yeah.
Uh, some people will panic and run away. Some people are just like me. I guess I was just so curious and so maybe awestruck. Is that a good word? That
Yeah. It's a
there
great
was
word.
no, it wasn't fear. It wasn't like I was going to run. It was just I was awestruck, and whatever it wanted to do would cause me to react in one form or another. You know what I'm saying? If it started stomping his feet and slinging trees together and pointing his finger at me like I'm going to whoop you, well, guess what? It's time for old Icebox to leave. I'm gone. But at that point in time, it was just wow, and it wasn't no fear to it for me. But thinking back at it, it was still like a little adrenaline rush to it. I guess you could call it that. But it was just such fascination. I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Go ahead, Richard. You was going to say something.
Oh no, no. I was just shaking my head agreeing with you. It's you know, but I did say, if you want to tell your story, you can always come on our podcast. We'd love to have
Oh,
you.
I am. I
Oh yeah.
will. When y'all need me,
Yeah.
I told you guys, and guys, that's why I have not been on the show. It's so hard to get guests sometimes, and them being in such a new channel, the book is wide open to them. And when somebody cancels out on them after they plan to come on, I'll be glad to come on, do fill in the space, or
Come bail
what
us
is that?
out.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Or if you're running out of guests, I'll be glad to help. You know that. But until then, just kind of keep you. Just know that I'm in your hip pocket if you need me. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
No, we
Yep.
appreciate it. We appreciate it. And anybody, I mean, if anybody reaches out to us, we're very open. You know what I mean? And if anybody reaches out to us and says, "Hey, I had an encounter. I'd like to talk about it," we're two guys that are not going to judge you. We're going to hear what you have to say. So,
Well, I'm gonna put it to you like this: you've got several people in the chat. You can have anybody but Henry. If Henry wants to do a show, he's got to come on mine first because I've been after his little hind end.
hey, Henry,
So,
Henry,
but Blue Eyed Northern is a great one. Flat Rock
Richard,
is a
get your
great one.
wallet out. Get your wallet out, Richard.
I got
He
money.
ain't got that kind of money.
Yeah, I met old Flat Rock
Great
year
guy.
before last at the Molina Festival. I would definitely love it. I've already floated it by him to come on ours. It actually may have been the other podcast we were doing on my page. But anyway, the invitation still stands for Sasquatch Unredacted there, Flat Rock. Him and I have it's surprised we know the same people we've met before, but we haven't like him and I really need to sit down and like compare just like a lot of the stuff that he has happen,
Yep.
like with the dogs. Dogs are they're a godsend. And I'll tell you this, and I didn't even notice it at first, but I remembered listening to a Sasquatch Chronicles years ago before I was even convinced these things were real. And the dude was talking about, I think it was an old gray one that would come around his neighborhood
Yeah.
that I think he actually was going to try to shoot or something, but didn't, or something like that. And I remembered him talking about the dogs. And when I started paying attention more and being ready when activity would happen, that's one of the first things I noticed is you could tell. And in a lot of the videos, especially back from my sitting area down at the back of the property, while things happening, while stuff's going on, the dogs on either side of me from neighbors are going crazy just about the whole time. And these dogs are 500 yards away. Dogs know without a shadow of a doubt when these things are around.
Oh yeah,
So
absolutely, absolutely.
that's one of your best, your best piece of equipment as a dog. He's not going to be able to tell anybody about your story, but he can at least let you know it's there.
Oh yeah, because that happened to me. I took my dog one time with me, and it definitely became an interesting night. So dogs are
Uh,
definitely great.
I will say this to Henry. I'm after Henry so bad it ain't even funny. Uh, he's a good guy. Henry, when you decide to come on the show, you let me know. I'll give you an email to send me your information, and I'll get in touch with you when you're ready. Okay. All
What
right.
part of the country is Henry in?
United States.
That's all I'm getting, right? Oh man.
He's in
Hey
Atlanta.
Henry. Hey Henry, there's only one of us on here that flies for free, Henry. Remember I mentioned that? I'm
Henry's a
just
good
kidding.
guy. No, he's a
I
good
wouldn't do
guy.
that.
I,
I
I,
wouldn't do that to nobody.
oh, I know, but I'm serious. I really would love to hear Henry and have him on the show, whether he was on camera or not. I don't care. I just think it would be a fascinating story to hear him talk about it.
Yeah,
But
we have the
anyways,
same option. We have the same option. If they don't want to be shown, we won't show their face or
of course,
different things
Yeah.
like that. We definitely want to respect people's privacy and stuff. That's why when we do this, it's really how do you want to do it? When do you want to do it? How do you want to do it? And it's about the story. It's about the story. We want to hear what's
it's
going on. So
yeah. And when it all comes down to it, Bigfoot is the star of the show.
yeah,
That's
Oh
what
yeah.
it is. You know, guys, y'all got any other questions y'all want to ask or chat room? I could ask
throw
some
some
more, but
questions. We're here
uh,
for you guys. It's all about the chat room. So you guys have got
it is.
questions or anything like that. I know we missed a lot, and there was
Yeah, we
some
did.
that we didn't go too far into that were great subjects. Great subjects, And I've had long 3-4 hour discussions with Icebox, and I've had very very 2-3 hour long conversations with Johnny. So that's the fun part of this is having conversations with like-minded people about this subject.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's a lot of fun. It's a camaraderie and stuff like that. As long as everybody respects each other. Not everybody's going to agree. And me and
No,
Johnny, just because we ask a question, a specific question, it's not that we believe or don't believe or anything like that. It's we just want to ask questions. Um, we're not going to judge you. We're not going to ridicule you, and we definitely won't allow anybody else to do it. So
No,
um,
we ridicule each other enough for
each
no.
other, yeah, yeah,
we don't need to get anybody else involved.
no, and yeah, especially me. I'm an easy target because I'm as dumb as they come.
Same,
So uh,
same
I'm
here.
an,
Same.
No,
I'm
you're
an easy
not.
target. Yeah,
Well, just like we was
Uh,
talking about opinions, those guys talking about the persimmon trees. It's just an opinion. It's just something that I've seen, and I'm kind of curious if there's something to it. Don't
but
know that
there's
it
a
is or
famous
not.
picture out there. There's a famous picture that somebody shot, and it was on television and everything else, where it was a screenshot from a trail camera of one that was in somebody's orchard. I think it was apples, and it was
Yeah,
picking apples, and it was picking them up off the ground. And in the picture, it might even have a young one holding on to it while it's picking up apples and stuff like that. So I think it's opportunity. I think it's all about opportunity. If you're growing strawberries in your backyard, during strawberry season like strawberries. I think it's opportunity. That's why I said when they move, not migrate but move. I think it all has to do with one being hidden and two its food sources. The Native Americans did it. They would travel and follow the buffalo because that was their priority. That's what clothed them.
yeah,
That's what made their teepees. That's what they ate. So when the buffalo moved, they had to move too. And I think it's the same thing because you can only stay in one area for so long. Even a hunter, I don't hunt anymore, but Johnny hunts. You can only hunt an area for so long, and you got to change places. See what I'm saying? Patterns change, the animals' patterns, so you've got to change with them. And I think that's what these things do. It's not just hiding, but I think it's about food sources and stuff like that. And they may have areas where they prefer over others. This is an area where they give birth, and this is an area where they go to teach them how to climb rocks. I don't know. See what I'm saying? There's no experts. We can only speculate on why they move and where they go. So,
Uh, do you guys ever hear Bigfoot eating? How can I put this to you guys? A lot of people call them hedge apples. Uh, Basically, it's Osage orange. It's what it is. They look like brain.
yeah,
You ever heard of that?
Yeah,
Does it
I've
look
heard
like
of
a what now?
It looks like a brain. The fruit
the
does.
brain.
Yeah, they're
Right.
about
Yeah.
almost.
I
They're
don't
bigger than
believe
a
so.
softball. You never heard of that?
Uh,
Yeah.
I've never
Uh,
seen one of those.
oh, you've
We
never
have
seen
something
one? You
here. We have
should.
something here like a crab apple. You can't eat it. It's so sour, and I think it's actually toxic. You know, it'll make you sick. And we
Yeah.
grow
Yeah,
those
we
down
got
here.
crab apples.
Now, hedge apple, that's what it was called back in them days. Sorry, guys, it was part of my research back then that we'll talk about later. Uh, hedge apple is basically an Osage orange. Osage orange is a hot burning wood. A lot of your potbelly stoves will recommend do not burn Osage orange in here. It's so hot. But it's a tough wood, and it was a treasured. I say treasured. It was a very well sought after by the Native Americans for their bows because it was so stout. You got plenty, exactly. Florida Seminole, Osage orange. He knows what I'm talking about. Uh, their fruit of it is uh, softball size or bigger. It's green and it looks like a brain. It really does. You know, you've seen pictures of
Huh.
a brain like a maze. That's the way it looks like. Nothing really eats it, but I have heard of Bigfoot eating those things when they come into season. Um, I ain't gonna give you a lesson on the wood itself, but you can find them on the sides of roads in Tennessee. Horse apple, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, Cratton.
Horse
Over
apple.
horse apple, that's the name of it. I don't know why. I knew it had apple, hedge, something was starting. It's been so long since I said it. Horse apple is the word I'm looking for. Osage orange. Yeah, it's a very good firewood, all right. Don't put it in a potbelly stove. Don't burn it in. Ugh, it is too hot. So
Mm.
just keep that size of a grapefruit. That's about the right size. That's about the right size. But I have heard of Sasquatch eating those things, and I was kind of curious if you guys might have heard of something like
Man, I hadn't even heard of the fruit until you brought it up. So no, I
that.
haven't.
Hey, I've got a question for Florida Seminole. Just
Hey,
you know,
Richard, before you do, go ahead. Give me 5 minutes. You guys can do
yeah.
that? 5 minutes. Okay. I'll be right back.
Well, I can have it because he can answer me in the chat room. It's just um, so Florida Seminole. Just it's kind of funny that you're on here because just recently I'm hitting up some. I'm in Florida, so I was hitting up some Seminole Indian tribes. You know, messaging. I have not got a response yet, but I've sent messages out to them because one of the things I've always been interested in doing was interviewing Native Americans and getting their viewpoint and getting their history on the skunk ape in the state of Florida and stuff like that. Maybe you can help with that. If you know any, Florida, Seminole Indians that have interactions with these things or have seen them, or if it's somebody that has a lot of history on them and that can tell us a lot, it'd be a great interview. And matter of fact, I was checking messages today to see if any of the tribes had responded. Maybe you can help me. So, just a shout out to you to let us know. You know what I mean? Just a different avenue. I'd like to get the Native Americans' viewpoint and history and stuff like that, and interactions. Their interactions may be way different than the interactions that we're having. So, just kind of throwing it out there. Be a great interview. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, man. Yeah, if you can get them to come forward. I know, a lot of that they like to keep to themselves or only share with people they really know. But I was actually pretty interesting that you bring that up. I tried to go into Chat GPT the other day and ask exactly in a roundabout way. I told it to give me every single named tribe in North America and then give me the uh, specific name in their language from that tribe of what they call Sasquatch.
Mhm.
And I think there was way more tribes than there were actual words. I think it
Right.
came up with like 24 of them. I'm sure a historian would know a lot better. And there's some back and forth, like some tribes use the same. The reason why it's not listed is because like maybe 4 tribes in the area use the same name for it, you know.
Right.
And I actually got that idea because of it may have been old Florida Seminole War history that we talked the other day, and I thought that was interesting. I thought that was interesting that you know there's that would be a really good project to find out like every single name from every single tribe. You know, because that was one of the things when I got started. That was one of the things besides just talking to people, but finding out that Native Americans not only had a name for it, but several tribes had names for them. And the variation came in, well, is it another type of human or all the way to a spirit, or maybe it's just an animal? But like mass majority of them agree, there's something called a Sasquatch out there. You know, they all have a name for it. So
Yeah, I did a deep dive one time, fairly recent, probably about a month and a half ago. Just sitting there on the internet trying to research stuff, and got the Seminole name for Sasquatch, which was really cool. But I started researching the Seminole Indians, and and I was like typing in, how long has the Seminole Indians been in Florida? And there are artifacts that have been dated back as far as 14,000 years ago. That's a long time. You know what I mean? It's, I mean, you think Seminole,
yeah,
you're like, and if the Seminole Indian has been in Florida that long, if this was Seminole Indian artifacts and they were here that long, and they have these accounts of Sasquatch, then Sasquatch has always been here. It's always been here. You know, I'm one of those guys that it really irritates me when people bring up the Barren Bridge or whatever from Russia to United States and stuff like that, because every time an animal is brought up, well, it had to come across the Bering Sea over the bridge. And then I'm like, okay, was there any animal that is from the United States? It's always been here, you know. Not everything came from Africa. Not everything came from Russia. The globe is a very large
you know
space.
my
There's got to be
my
creatures
theory on that is,
that
Richard.
have been here. What's that?
You remember how they used to tell older people to take a baby aspirin a day
Yeah.
for years, like my entire adult life, and probably
Mm-hmm.
icebox. You probably heard that your entire adult life,
Sure.
and then
Well, I used
they
to do
come
it.
out and they tell you, well, it might not be a good idea because it causes bleeding on the brain.
Mm,
That's
aspirin.
aspirin.
Right.
Yeah.
They can't figure aspirin out, and you're telling me you know where all the animals came from on
Right.
the face of the planet and all this other stuff. You know, I think there's just a lot of money and a
Right.
lot of ego involved in a lot of the information that we have given to us. And
Right.
I think there's a
And
lot of people out there that,
you can't get any further from that land bridge than Florida. But yet that creature is all the way from Alaska all the way down to Florida. See what I'm saying?
you know,
I just think it's always been here. It's just always. Now, I'm not saying all of them were here. Maybe some of the larger ones or different ones came and interbred. I don't know. It's all speculation. But I just truly believe that if the Seminole tribe has been here, with artifacts dated back that far, and they have a history of this creature, it's always been here. You've mentioned it. I've mentioned it. Different people mentioned it about the Leif Erikson. The Viking
yeah,
had encounters when he came to the United States with these large, hairy creatures. You know what I mean? So I think they've always been here. I don't think the land bridge is really it. That's why I don't buy into the whole Gigantopithecus thing. You know what I mean? Um,
Oh, I don't either.
because okay, you find this stuff in China, the teeth and the jawbone or whatever you found. None of that has ever been found in the United States. Not from Alaska, Canada, all the way down to South America. That has never been found here. See what I'm saying? So if that creature had come over the land bridge and came here and populated here, and that's what people think Sasquatch is an offshoot of the Gigantopithecus. Well, we're not finding anything that would you know say that's the truth. There's just the stuff that they found was in China. See what I'm saying? Then they went into the caves and found more, and its teeth, and it's always small bones. It's always little things and stuff like that. I think that's a big leap to say, yeah, this creature that was in China also could be the creature that's in the United States. That's a big step for me, big step. So
Let me ask you guys a question, and I hope I'm not being too forward. Would y'all consider doing a show talking with, because Paramedic, Florida Semino, there's several others on here that know a lot about these uh, way the native tribes believed and called names, that we have a discussion with them and give them plenty of time and respond to what they say. Uh, Henry, there's a bunch of them on here that are responding to this Native American uh, names and such like that. And I'm sure they've got stories. And you were saying something earlier about why the Native Americans don't talk about it much. Well, that's because people were just really wouldn't understand. You know, you've got too many city people that would not understand nature and the Native American ways and such like that. Uh, and there's some that just won't talk about it because you would think they were crazy. You know what I'm saying? Uh,
Well, they have every right. Think about it.
yeah,
You got a bunch of us running around uh, for the past 60 years acting like we discovered something.
yeah,
And they've been for thousands of years they've been saying, hey, we got this thing over here. We got a name for it. We know what it is. Would you like us to tell you what it is? And we're like, no, we found Bigfoot. So no, dude, you didn't find Bigfoot. It's already been found a long time ago. So I understand that. I understand the
I do too.
hesitancy to really share. When you have and it's kind of a controversial topic. Like when you kind of look at history, like there's a mountain and a creek and a few other places that are named after uh, who was it? It was the Cherokee and the Creek, like massive battles they had with each other. They slaughtered the heck out of each other, right? Um, so a lot of that was happening before we even got here, but it's just really a shame on how and if it didn't happen the way it did, I wouldn't exist because I'm partially, I've only got 3% Native American, but it's just such a shame the way all that turned out and the history that was lost and how we just assumed because of our technology that there was nothing we could learn, and it's
Yeah,
complete opposite. Just imagine how much happier people would be if we had more of that in our lives instead of more of us in their lives. Is kind
yeah,
of the way I look at
I agree. I
it.
really do. I really do. All right, I don't see no more questions coming up, guys. Are you done, or you got other questions you would like to ask?
I'm bouncing back and forth to the chat room. You know what I mean? Because I can't type
They're
on my
very good, ain't they?
yeah. They've been outstanding. They've come up with some great questions. I look forward to seeing more. I mean, I just
Yep.
posted on there what this is what I posted in there is what I found when I was searching was the SD Kapkaki, and it's really weird. The definition literally means big hairy man. That's what the Seminole tribe called it. It was a big hairy man. Um, that's how you said, if we're gonna go and research this thing as far as history goes and how far back it goes, I don't think you can go any further than Native Americans. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Because really, what was before Native Americans? What was? You know what I mean? So I think if the opportunity to talk to one and to interview one, I would love to go. There's a Seminole area not far from me, maybe a 30-minute, 40-minute drive. I would love to be able to go on there and hike and talk and stuff like that. You know what I mean? But it's extremely difficult. It's just as difficult anywhere else around here because everything's private and you can't. You know, there's a lot of resources here. I'd love to jump on, but it's all private. So
but I done a show a couple of weeks ago, I think it was, or uh, you're gonna get me at yet, Mister Athens. All right, I'll get to that. Uh, I done a show called The War of 1855. and it's basically just a story of and it's documented of in LaForest County, Oklahoma, where they actually had to go out and uh, basically have a war with Bigfoot and try to retrieve some stuff. I'm not going to give it away, guys. If you want to go back and watch the show, it's the War of 1855. But there are other stories in there where they go back even further, back in the 1700s. You know,
Oh yeah.
uh, there's so many stories that should be told and all that kind of stuff. All right,
Well, I think through
Sasquatch,
history. Go ahead.
go ahead. I'll get to it in a minute. It's Mr. Athens. He's got me nailed, and I got to respond. But go ahead.
Lenny's a great guy. We
Yeah.
definitely like Lenny's our boy, man. We like Lenny a lot. So, but
Hey, Icebox, what's Mr. Inslee said, Icebox, can you ask what I asked you to ask last night?
Uh, I would, but I can't remember, Josh. I can't remember right now. Give me a hint, and I'll remember. Okay. Uh, what is
Lenny
your
asked
I got one
idea?
more.
He wants to
That's
know.
what.
I asked him on a show I done, I think 2 weeks ago. Uh, what kind of truth are you looking for? You know, Leonard wants to know uh, what's the truth behind Bigfoot.
the
You
truth,
know,
the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth. Yeah. And I asked several people, and it come down to why is the government not telling these things are real, and why are they keeping it secret? I think that was in a nutshell what Mr. Athos was looking for. Uh, I had another guest on me that said something else, and somebody said something about being a mystery. And I thought it was funny that nobody asked me what I thought the truth was. So Leonard kind of is trying to nail me to the wall with what he's trying to do.
Because you can't handle the truth.
You can't handle my kind of truth, trust me.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna answer this question. My blog Sunny 11. I'm gonna just be flat out honest with you. I seen one 3 feet away. I did not see its teeth. It did not show its teeth. I have heard of stories of people seeing their teeth, growls, and all that kind of stuff. But myself personally, I have not seen their teeth. I don't know about these other two gentlemen. They can tell you.
No.
No, I have not.
No.
Oh, okay. Now I know what you're talking about, Josh. Okay, Josh. I hope I put this in the right way that you asked, uh, Richard. Is the algae blooms down in Florida? Uh, I don't know how far up north they might go. They might go into Georgia. I don't know much about the algae blooms. But his question was there are animals that are drinking the water or eating these things and are dying from it. Do you think that this would have an effect perhaps on the population of Bigfoot? Or are they subject to this toxin from the algae?
Well, I'm absolutely sure. I think anything that disrupts nature in itself, either it be a toxin released into the water or an algae bloom that is toxic. I mean, it's the algae blooms that we have, especially everybody's heard of red tide and stuff like that. You can't even stand on the ocean when red tide's there because your eyes start to irritate, your throat starts to hurt. So yeah, I think I mean, looking at nature in itself, if it's affecting deer and hog or bear or anything else, I would assume it would affect them as well. I don't think Sasquatch is immune to everything. I think it has its challenges just like us. They may get cancer, they may get hemorrhoids. We don't know. See what I'm saying? But I don't think they're immune from anything. So I think especially what we
They
do as
might
humans.
be smart enough to stay away from it, maybe if they
You
can
know,
smell it or see it. Maybe they're smart enough to do that.
yeah,
It
maybe
only affects
they pick
everything.
up on it. Yeah,
Well,
maybe they.
if you look at it this way, horses are smart enough to stay away from buttercups
Right,
out in the
right.
fields, and they can eat around it. Uh, I don't know. It's still an assumption of what Bigfoot can and can't do. You know.
Yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
I had a dog that would eat fries. He loves French fries, But you dab the tiniest little speck of ketchup on it, he won't touch that fry. He's just aware. He's fully aware. No, I'm not going to eat that. You know what I mean? I think they're smart. I do think they're intelligent. I think they're self-aware, and I think that just like us, they pay attention to what's going on. I think they know. It's like a hurricane. I'm pretty sure they know when a hurricane's coming. I think they can pick up like I do with barometric pressure. I'll get a headache. You know what I mean? I start knowing that the air is changing and I'm getting a headache, or some people get a runny nose or whatever. Deer and everything, they bed down when a storm's coming and stuff like that. So I think they're fully aware of what's going on in nature and what's going on around them.
Florida Semino is saying something. There are other ways to get drinking water, and guys, I'm gonna just tell you the honest truth. Yeah, I feel like that Bigfoot could get in ponds, lakes, even oceans. But I feel like they're given their nature to stay hidden as much as they do. They tend to drink more out of underground streams, creeks, that kind of stuff. Your smaller moving water, I think that more or less is where they get their water from. Myself, Mr. Athos.
Well, moving water is very important. So
exactly. What do you think? Let me bring that back down here. Let me pull it up. I'll just do it that way. What do any of you think regarding what will evolve in this next 5 years with regard to our knowledge of these beings? That's a loaded question.
Nothing until there's full disclosure.
You think?
It's one of those things. We're waiting for that miracle. We're waiting for that one person out there, because me and Johnny ain't the only two researchers out there. There's researchers in every state, and at some point, somebody's going to get lucky, and hopefully, it's good enough that the government finally gives full disclosure. I mean, they're doing it with UFOs. Just give us Bigfoot. That's all I ask.
Yeah, it would be nice. I think. I don't think they ever will. Unfortunately, I think that there's way too much money involved. And even if you take the body of work that I've collected, and then let's add a 45-second video to it of a Sasquatch from 10 feet away. It's still not going to be enough for anybody. Like, there's part of me that knows that I'm going to be able to do this my entire life, and probably just what I am able to collect is not going to be enough to prove indefinitely. I think that's why it's very important that we help other researchers out and share openly pretty much everything we've learned, and hopefully as a body together, eventually enough will be put together. But unfortunately, I'm not one of those who thinks that the government is technically hiding Bigfoot from us. I don't think they have to. I think it's one of these things that literally almost takes care of itself, and they've got plausible deniability. I've talked about before that the sighting Captain Joe had was on a military rifle range a mile away from an NSA facility. And there's 2 other sightings that were documented in the BFRO a mile away from that exact spot. And this is on a military installation. I don't know whether they can. I think they know everything there is to know about them, but I don't think they're controlling them. And I do not think they will ever let anything get far enough, because of the amount, the trillions of dollars that's at stake. If you just think about the area I live in, which is one of the biggest surprises to me when I started doing this, I'm in a semi-rural area. It's not super rural. Now, you go 15 minutes west of me, it gets country. It gets so country, the kids only go to school 4 days a week. Okay. And they don't have a great education system. And it's spread out, and it's It's as country as it gets, 15 minutes away from me. But I got 6 gas stations and a Publix within 6 miles of me. And I back up to a very large wildlife management area. And there's airports, there's rock quarries, there's all kinds of businesses dotted all throughout here. That if it came out, if all the evidence that I had came out that these things are living right where I live, I mean, it would destroy, I know, at least one multi-million-dollar operation. They would have to shut down. So I think because of that, like tell the story all the time in the Marine Corps out at 29 Palms, had a thing called a desert tortoise. And apparently if you scare a desert tortoise, it pees on itself and it dies because it holds all its moisture in. So it did not matter what you were. We were in the middle of training to go to combat in Iraq. But we were told if anybody comes across this desert tortoise to get away from it, and they would have removed us from the range. A whole bunch of Marines about to go supposedly kill America's enemies because of a turtle that might pee on itself. And you've heard of all the the spotted owls and all these different. They will never allow it, I don't think, fully. Like I honestly think whoever gets the closest to doing that is going to get a visit one day.
Yeah.
So,
well, I truly believe that too. But I think the one thing that we have that's going for us, it hurts us and it helps us. So let's look at the positive side of it first, is technology. It's getting better and better and better every year. Night vision, sound equipment, drone, everything's getting better. And as to where we're at today, I can go back just 5 years now. We were not where we were at today with the equipment that we're using in the woods. 5 years from now, who's to say what next is coming out there that will help us and benefit us in the research field? See what I'm saying? Now, granted, the bad side of it is AI, where that's so many things can be manufactured and be misleading. But as far as the equipment itself, the technology and the accuracy and stuff like that, I think that helps a lot. Will they disclose it? Probably not. You know what I mean? And somebody had asked earlier in the chat room is what happens if somebody finds one or somebody shoots one or kills one. My advice is keep it to yourself. My advice is call people you trust and get it out of the area first, because because they're gonna come and get it. The one thing
you got to have a plan.
You got to have a plan. Got to have a plan.
Yeah.
I
have a plan, and I have people. I know exactly where everything is going.
Right.
It's lined up.
And it has to be.
And I started doing that like 3 years ago. And
you can't go public right away.
I agree.
You can't.
Let's put it this way: if I invite a bunch of people over for a barbecue, you might want to question it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's like I have a plan too. There's nobody a part of my plan, but I have a plan. You know what I mean? But I think the key thing, what I would tell somebody, just the average hunter or something like that shoots one of these and kills it, is get as much information as you can. Rip hair off of it, cut a finger off, something you can carry, put in your backpack or whatever, and get the hell out of Dodge. See what I'm saying? Don't try to bring that whole body out. See what I'm saying? If you have a plan, like I'm sure Johnny has a plan or I have a plan, we're going to try to remove the whole thing. And there's going to be steps to be taken and things has to be taken, but you don't want to go public with it. And what people fail to understand is there's a lot of states, Florida included, that already has laws against dispatching a Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
They do that to protect themselves. They do that so they can come after you and hold you accountable and make you shut up and make you be quiet about it. So if you go public with it and say, "Oh, you just shot a Bigfoot," and they show up, you're probably in a world of hurt. You're probably in a lot of trouble. And to get out of that trouble is you signing away that you're never going to discuss it. See what I'm saying? So
the only good part about that is they can't be everywhere at once.
Right.
That's about the only thing we got going for us. They can't.
Right.
Of course, I'm not. Me and Richard and hardly anybody. I mean, I know a few people aren't actively hunting them, trying to kill them,
No.
so that won't really be an option for me
I'm not one
unless
of them
it
either.
just. And to be honest with you, man, I started out before I knew uh, what I was dealing with. When I first started, I thought it was an animal, just straight up, just an animal is what I thought. And then after the things I experienced, I was like, yeah, that's not an animal. That's not. No, they don't think like animals. Don't think like this. But there was a time, and I even signed up for a group, a well-known group, uh, that had a project going on where they were trying to kill one, and I just got to thinking about it. I'm like, man, there's just no way. There's no way I could do it. Yeah, I mean, I could do it. I'd do it in a heartbeat if one was trying to tear my head off.
Of course.
That's one thing, or trying to hurt a family member or a friend or something like that. But it's just not work. I mean, trust me, I love doing this. I love this subject, and I don't care who you are. Anybody does this and is interested and actually goes in the field, you want to be the one to do it. You
Of
want to be
course.
the one to break it up. Everybody does, and I would absolutely love that, but not at that cost. I just wouldn't. And I've had people literally say, "Hey, I'm 45 minutes away from you, or I live an hour and a half away from you, and I got a 300 win mag. Let's do it," and then automatically block. I don't want nothing to do with. I don't want nothing to do with any of that. I'm satisfied with collecting evidence and
It's
hopefully.
like me.
Go ahead, Richard. I cut you off.
If it was accidental or something like that, I shot one. I'm just grabbing as much information as I can, throw it in my backpack, and getting the hell out of Dodge. You can find out a lot just by removing a finger. There's DNA, there's blood, there's hair, you know what I mean? They do it with cavemen. They've found a finger, and they were able to rebuild the whole body and tell you what it is. I'm grabbing a hand, a finger, something that I can, take and throw it in my bag, and that's it. I'm gone. I'm out.
I'm gonna put.
It's going in my freezer until things die down, for a while, and then I go from there. Not
I'm gonna put it to you
CNN.
like this. Mr. Atlas asked me, "What is my truth about these beings?" The truth is that they exist. So why do I do this kind of stuff? I'm not out here to prove to anybody in the chat room or you two guys or anybody else Bigfoot exists. I don't care. I know they do. You've seen them, you've heard them. You guys know for your own self. You have confidence in what you saw or seen or heard. You know if a Bigfoot's real or not. So what kind of truth does that mean for me? My truth is do they actually let's go this route, and I'm gonna just throw things out there. Do they live in caves? I don't know. Do they climb trees? I don't know. I hear stories, then that. I just want to know the truth about their activities, their habits, what they eat. Like somebody asked about the gestation periods and that kind of stuff. I want to know about them. I don't want to know if they exist. Okay. I don't go out here with a gun in an attempt to shoot one and bring back evidence. Go, hey, world, here it is. Now you have to believe. You got to do something. No, no. I don't care nothing about it. I want to know how they live and are they subspecies. The things that you hear, you learn, and you hear from everywhere you go. What is truth about what? You know what I'm saying? Or is all of it got some truth to it? I don't know. That's
Well,
why my kind of truth I'm looking for.
Well, I think the one way to get to the truth is do what we do, and that's have open and honest discussion between researchers about
Mhm.
what they're experiencing and what they're collecting. The problem is that's not happening. It's happening in small scales. You know what I mean? Me and Johnny will share. Johnny may share with somebody and so forth, but it's not a conglomerate of everybody getting together. And that kind of segues into what I wanted to talk about in a minute. But I think if researchers would get past ego and get past
Yeah.
pride and start sharing and talking and having open instead of, well, I'm not talking to you because you're friends with him, and I'm not talking to you because you know
Yep.
him. You know what I mean? We're not in high school. You know, we're all grown adults here, and we're all in the same field, and we're all trying to do the same thing. And if we're going to reach the truth, then we need open, honest discussion with each other. That's why one of the things segued into it, because I'm really excited about this because of Johnny. We have the Bigfoot conference that's coming up in April, and that's an opportunity where you're in a room with 2,000 people that all have the same interest. See what I'm saying? And you can have these discussions with different people that you wouldn't usually have discussions with. You got people on stage that's talking and going over, and you can sit back and listen and see if there's similarities in what you're experiencing where you're at. See what I'm saying? That's happened to me with other researchers where they said something, and all of a sudden I'm sending them a picture saying, "Look, I got the same thing." They're 5 states away, and they're getting the same thing I'm getting. See what I'm saying? And it's that open dialogue that's what's going to happen. So when I bring up the Bigfoot conference, you know, the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference is the first, I think it's the first weekend of April. Johnny is actually coming down. He's going to be a part of that this year. And I think that's awesome. Me and him get to hang out and enjoy the conference and stuff like that. Of course, you know, you'll probably go live with us if you want, you know, and
oh, you know, I will. I can't fly for free.
Yeah.
I'm not. Yeah, I guess my wife and my son are actually going on the DC trip. I went with my daughter whenever she was in middle school. My wife and son are going, so I can't go anywhere without taking my daughter. So my teenage daughter is being forced to drive to Florida to go to. And she said, "Can you at least get a hotel room with a pool?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can pull that off." But her mother's been telling me here the past couple of weeks, she's like, she's actually excited to go. And I'm like, "What? Really? Excellent." So
It's
I
a
look
lot of
forward to
fun.
that.
It's a lot of fun, and you know, bring money because, you know, I don't know if she's got money, but bring money because there's so many vendors there with unique, interesting Bigfoot stuff, you know, and there's live podcasts going on. There's people that set up booths to do nothing but their podcasts. There's of course, you got the big names, you know, who are the guest speakers and stuff like that that are going to be there and stuff. Gives you an opportunity to meet authors that have wrote books and stuff like that. Brian King Sharp's going to be there. He was there last year. I got to spend a lot of time and talk to him and everything. He is a good guy. Um, I've met Dr. Meldrum, and I've met you know, Ron Moorhead. You get to see these people and talk to these people and ask questions and different things like that. It's a great thing. So if anybody ever gets an opportunity to go to one of the really big Bigfoot conferences, because there's conferences all over the place, but there's really three majors, which is the Great Florida Bigfoot Conference. Gatlinburg is another really big one I hear, and they're all done by the same company. And then you have the Bigfoot Cruise, which what I heard now is they're adding a second cruise every year that will actually come out of Florida. It's a Bigfoot cruise where it's basically a conference on the cruise ship. So all these guys, they have one that goes. It's crazy, but they have one that goes
I'm sorry. I could just imagine me telling my wife, "Hey, I got us a cruise," and we show up, and she's like, "Oh,
oh my
Yeah.
See, Icebox. Unfortunately, my relationship with my wife is not the same as yours when it comes to Sasquatch. She's supportive of what I do.
Yeah.
I tell you, man, it's it used to be me and 4 kids, man. It was me and her uh out in the woods, running naked around the fire, and now she won't go anywhere without air conditioner in it. So
I got
things change over the years,
yeah.
Yeah.
Man, there is a Alabama conference. It's just not as big as Florida. That's the reason Richard's good enough to bring me along on the internet and let me kind of see the show. And that's the reason I broadcast it, so guys like us that can't go down to these conferences, you get to see
we'll do
what
it
it's
again
all
like we
about.
did last year. Last year was a lot of fun because I went live with you and I'm running around the place. Check this out. Check this out. Say hi to this guy. Then I'd go to the crowd and say, "Hey, you're live on YouTube right now. Say hi." We just had a lot of fun with it, and I want to do that again this year because it was 10 minutes, 15 minutes out of our day, and we had a good time. But it's a lot of fun, and this place is gorgeous. This place is unbelievably beautiful. It's on the the World Equestrian Center. So when you get there, it's this beautiful rolling hills of grass and picket fences, and you have these huge buildings. And when you go inside, it's just massive. And they have a what do you call that giant, like at basketball courts, that big television screen in the middle of the ceiling.
I
You know,
wish you would have said. I know what
The,
you're
the
talking about.
jumbotron.
Yeah,
the
that's it.
jumbotron. So it doesn't matter where you're at in this building. You can always stop and just look at the jumbotron and see and hear what the person on stage is talking about and stuff like that. You don't necessarily have to go and sit in a chair and watch and listen to this person. You can actually stop and look at the big TV screens and stuff like that. It's beautiful and it's a lot of fun. It's well ran. It's very peaceful. Everybody's respectful. It's a good time. It's a really, really good time. So,
All right, I got a demand, and I say I am demanding. Mr. Athens going to be there. Johnny's going to be there. Richard's going to be there. Flat Rock, from the look of it, is going to be there. If anybody else that comes to these shows and chat rooms that we know are there, I want a group picture and sent to me specifically. Okay? Would you guys do that for me? Would you?
Yeah, man. You just got to remind us. That's all
Oh,
I
yeah.
ask. Just remind us.
I will.
Yeah.
I
We'll
want
make
to
it
get a
happen.
picture of all. Find you a stranger, give them $5. I don't care. Have them take a picture of you and send it to me. That's all I'm asking. I would love
Oh
it.
yeah.
I would post it on the show and everything else. That would just be great if you guys could do that for me.
yeah, they got these great banners that are set up here, throughout the building. These really beautiful banners. I got some great pictures of some. And so people are standing in front of different banners, getting their pictures, group photos, stuff like that. So we can do that. But the great thing is it's they auction off. It's like a silent auction for all those banners.
Hmm.
So at the
Yeah.
end of the day, people are leaving with these banners. You know what I mean? It's just whatever you want to bid, put it in there. And if you win, it's your banner. You know what I mean? I know I've bought a couple banners in the past year and a half, so I know what the going cost is. So if I bid on one, I know what I'm putting in. So
Would you freak out if I ended up showing up there?
oh yeah, that'd be
You would
awesome.
freak
Man.
out. I'd be
That'd be
running the show and you wouldn't know it.
Yeah.
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 All right, guys. Have y'all got anything else, guys? We've been on here 2 hours, and I do have to get in bed, get ready to go to work tomorrow.
No.
No,
Me
just
too.
remind everybody, check us out. Check us out. Sasquatch Unredacted podcast. It's new. We just started. We just started in December. I think what's our next show? The fifth show? Is our next show the fifth? I think. So we really, really want people to join us and get more of me and Johnny. But also don't forget, Johnny has a page as well on YouTube called Sasquatch Encounter Brigade, where he does document all those things that are going on the property around his house. I also have a channel on YouTube called BFFG Bigfoot Research, where I go out on the weekends. I do a lot of hiking and I get out there. Sometimes I even do camp outs, and it's all about research. I'm out there looking and looking and looking. So check us out on those platforms, and hopefully you don't
Hey,
get too much.
yeah. Henry needs an email. What does Henry need an email address for? For Icebox?
Is that what you need?
Sasquatch
okay,
Unredacted at
okay.
gmail.com.
No, I think
Don't pay him no
Henry.
attention. Don't pay him no
Henry.
attention.
Henry. What?
Hang on, Henry. Hang on, buddy. I got you. I got you covered, brother.
Sasquatch Unredacted at gmail.com.
Yeah. Don't do it, man. We won't get
Okay,
invited back.
No, don't be bad. Henry, right there it is. It's called bamdamsports@gmail.com. It will go to Spencer, and Spencer will make sure that I get your email. He's very private, and he will get with me, and I will get your information, and we'll talk, okay? But it is bamdam, all lowercase letters, bamdamsports@gmail.com, and we'll make it happen, brother. We'll make it happen.
Well, we need to work out a date to where you're coming on our show, because we'd love to talk about your sighting and stuff like it as Icebox,
Oh, no. Just like I said, I'm in your hip pocket. When you need me, trust me, I've run across that where I've had people lined up and something one way or another and they couldn't show, and it's kind of hard on you. So that way I'm in your hip pocket. Hey man, would you come in, fill in for tonight? Be glad to do it. Be glad to. Okay. Guys in the
Excellent.
chat room. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just saying, excellent show. Thank you.
Oh yeah, well, I appreciate you two guys. Guys in the chat room, y'all had a lot of good questions, but it was such a good, interesting show. The way the fellas was interacting, going this way and that way. Said we didn't get to all your questions, and I'm sorry about that. But don't be mad at us. I just love the way you guys do, and we're sorry, but come back again. We're gonna do this more often if we can, and bring you same questions, and we'll get to them. But just give us time, and I really do appreciate the chat room. I really can't tell them I thank them enough for their comments and their questions and how they're interacting. I think I got the best chat room there is. So, anyways, like go ahead, beg.
We'll arm wrestle over that one. We'll arm wrestle over that one. I think our subscribers are pretty cool too. No,
I'm pretty sure we got pretty much the same ones.
We
Y'all are fighting over the same girlfriend.
Yeah, but
we are. That's great. All right, guys, you got anything else?
No,
man.
Right, we will get out of here. Thanks,
Richard.
Johnny.
I'll see you Friday, bud.
That's right. We got a show. Everybody, we got a show coming up this Friday.
Yep.
There you go. All right, Richard, thank you very much for coming on. Johnny, I really can't tell you how much I appreciate you coming on. I really look forward to both of y'all, and I thank y'all. I really do. From the bottom of my heart.
Anytime, man.
All right, guys, we're going to get out. Thank y'all.
Anytime.
Thank you, chat room. We'll catch y'all Sunday, maybe 2 weeks from now, but if I get another good lineup like these guys are tonight, I may come on next Sunday. But if not, I will be on next in 2 weeks. So you guys take care of yourselves and be careful at work. Y'all take care.
Y'all.
All right. How'd you like it, Johnny?
Man, I went good.
Good. I'm glad you had a good time. I hope you did anyways.
Oh yeah. It's I enjoy just being able to sit back and talk like that, like we're doing.
Yep, you done a good job. I'm finding it's so hard, and that's why I stress it that put me in your hip pocket. Guests are just so finicky. You know what I'm saying? They can come on. You like right now, your guys are starting out great, and there's going to come a time that somebody's going to not want to. They'll say they come on and they don't end up, and it could be for any given reason. They might have something go on in their family. You never know. And there's just some that are jerks. I've run across a few of those.
Oh man, I've made a couple enemies. Only like a handful, but that gets around. Whenever you got people that and it's all been for like dishonesty stuff. They were, you find out they're liars or they're literally thieves.
Yeah.
And I've never like come forward and been like, hey, this is what me and so went through. They're a liar and a thief. I don't do that. But that type of person does that. And I told Richard, I said, hey man, you're going to have to be prepared for that because he's never done this before. Like, look, you're going to have to be prepared for that you're going to reach out to people and you're going to find people that don't like me or they don't like somebody that you talk to or somebody that I talk to.
Yeah.
I got a phone call last night that this guy doesn't like somebody that I know, and then I don't like the dude that he know. It's just, all this stuff back and forth. It's just, and I be honest with you, as 90% of the reason why I quit doing the podcast on our own channel is I got so burnt out on doing this and
Yeah.
dealing with that kind of stuff and the back and forth and the lies and but I was hoping that, Richard's, he's a little more upbeat and happy than I am, and he can, keep that, we can balance each other out, hopefully. But yeah, I understand that 100%. That how often do you do yours?
Well, I used to do them every week, and I would get guests on, but just between me and you, uh, the guests that I like and that I basically require, I don't put up with the woo. I don't
Yeah.
believe Bigfoot's portals, aliens, spirits. Right now, to me, it's flesh and blood. You know what I mean? Am I wrong? I'm just as wrong as anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Just the
Right.
evidence points to flesh and blood. You know what I'm saying? Are they smart creatures? Yeah, I can see that they're smart creatures. That they're not just animals like you were saying earlier. I mean, I don't really know how you feel about it, and I really don't care. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I'm just saying when people say they walk into portals, well, why do you say that? Is it because you heard it somewhere, or uh, did you find it on? I'll give you a fine example. They had a farmer guy that said, okay, he finally seen a Bigfoot. And these guys asked him, well, what do you think it is? And then he goes, well, I think it's from the Nephilim. Well, where did he pick that
Right.
up at? You see where I'm getting at?
Yeah.
Regurgitating information without a good research. Everything that I've had interactions with or studied about Bigfoot, in my opinion, I hear stories all the time. It points to a animalistic behavior. And
Yeah.
until I see anything different or you show me something different, I have no choice but to see what's in front of me. You know what I'm saying? Now, do I have an open mind? Yeah.
Mr. Van Edwards, so you're still alive. Be careful.